So go ahead and pull off to the side and do your sit. So another thing that I'm seeing you do that I think is gonna be a good tweak to help you out a little bit is when he starts getting a little distracted, you start slowing down, almost waiting for him.
Okay.
And I think it confuses him. And because every time I've seen it so far today, he starts slowing down, you slow down, and because you slow down, he thinks he should sit, and then you have to correct him for it because he stops following you. So try to make sure when you're working with him, if you notice he's getting a little distracted, just keep moving.
Okay.
Don't change your pace or anything like that, and wait for him to make the decision of either catching up to you or stopping. And if he stops at that point, then we would correct for it.
Well, today I'm gonna have David join us here in a second, and he's gonna come up and like just be that obnoxious person that's trying to say hi to her, and we'll work on making sure she's stable and in that down. So anywhere over here, you can put her into another down. Good job. So generally, you find the barking like takes place when people like acknowledge her, like kind of lean over her.
Yeah, like the guy today, he walked past her and like he was probably like this close to her.
Yeah.
And like she's completely fine. Like she always like watches people intently. She's like a staring problem.
Sure.
But as soon as he like directed his attention towards her, like he didn't reach for anything. He just like, hey, you're a pretty girl, whatever.
Yeah.
And as soon as like he started to talk to her, she was like,
yeah. Did she lunge up and like break her down, or was she just barking?
Break her down,
okay.
but more like a up and like back.
Sure.
Yeah.
Do you want me to put it to 100?
Yeah, I put it up pretty high, so we can really address the behavior since it has been happening, and we know that she knows what we want her to do at this point. She's just gonna, I think she's getting up and breaking because she generally feels scared.
Yeah.
And I want her to understand, like, you're still in your down until you're released. And then ultimately, we're not going to let anybody get into her space. She just is expected to lay in the down. If she barks, we'll let that go. But just all four paws on the ground, elbows on the ground.
Okay.
Oh my gosh, this is a really cute dog you guys have here. Is that what I was supposed to do?
Yeah, exactly. Did you say this morning she barked at somebody for this exact scenario? Yeah.
She's like, not old Bridget here, because I know
Yeah.
how to behave myself.
Hi.
She's like, you smell like Miracle Canine.
She's like, I'm...
Nice. Good job.
Good job. Not much today, but we've just been having issues with her, like with strangers.
Sure.
Like people even just the slightest bit of attention with directing their attention at her. If we're like at a coffee shop or something, she starts barking at people. I don't know why she's not barking at you. That's amazing. But and then like in our house when we had like guests over, she was like backing up, barking at everyone. So we started putting her like in a downstay, going and getting the door, and she has to stay on her bed.
I can tell like when she's gonna do it too. Like, like if you would have came from that way and she saw you from back there, like, I mean, like if anyone changes their direction and like puts their attention towards her, she's like, oh shit, like, yeah.
But is there anything like in this session right now that you're doing differently than you normally would if you were out and about and ran into that situation? Whether it's, you know, levels you're using on your collar, whether it's where you're giving your correction, whether it's what you're asking her to do, like anything that you could think of that's different?
I feel like right now she really knows she's supposed to be in a down, like because she tried to get up a couple of times before you got here. And, I mean, it's on high, so she knows.
So the level is a little bit up from what normal use is.
Keep it at like 40 at the beginning of our walk, and as we walk, we'll kind of turn it up. But no, you're pushing it.
There you go. She sees these dogs behind you.
But
so that's a big difference, obviously, right?
Yeah.
Level, I'm sure Bridget said already, obviously, is a massive component. You know, when we see, you know, the same situation you're describing, we've heard a ton of times from people, obviously. And usually it's a matter of, not a consistent enough routine as far as when you're in those places where stuff like that generally would happen, where people are interacting with her. You're not consistently implementing like a same routine. So in this case, the downstate proactively before she ever starts reacting. And then two, our accountability for, right there. There you go. Our accountability for breaking those commands is usually much lower. You said you're at 100 right now? Yeah, and like honestly, like that, like doesn't seem too high by any means.
No, sometimes like, if
Yeah.
there's like I was telling Bridget, like if there's a squirrel or something,
Yeah.
like I'll hold it.
Yeah,
She does
sure.
not care.
Yeah.
Like she does not
gets, like,
give a.
It's a power
Yeah.
breed.
Into it, she's like,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
do not care.
That's the Rottweilers, man. I would say every Rottweiler we work with, they wind up at super high levels.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, the proactive keeping the level high, I find, is one of the biggest things. So I'm assuming you probably haven't even seen a actual reaction here in this session so far. And a lot of that probably has to do with right off the rip, you're setting the tone before you ever run into the big issue, you know?
And maybe that's part of it, is that we're a little too lenient with her
Sure.
sometimes. So I
Until
feel
there's
like,
a problem.
Yeah.
even sitting here, like Bridget was like, just put it
Yep.
up to 100, and then like, I mean, she tried a little times to break it, but she
Yeah.
like,
I think.
kids ran by.
Yeah.
and she
There's a
kinda
lot
just-
going on. And you've had her since she was like a very, very little tiny puppy. So you grew up with a version of her that you're used to seeing, where maybe we didn't have to get up to those levels.
Yeah.
But now, like we talked about, like reaching maturity, she's coming into her own. She's more confident. We say that those breed traits are coming out.
No, down.
She said, "I got an itch."
She's like, but it itches.
So I think just committing to starting at 100 when we go on our field trips can get you back to where you were before, where you want to take her out to patios, you want to do things with her. We just have to gauge her comfortability level and make sure that we're really coming down on her so she knows that she cannot bark at people, get up from her down.
Yeah, I also think like maybe like the difference between like now and like before is like there's a ton of people around.
Yes, yeah.
When it's like when we were out just like on our like porch this morning, it's literally me, her, and then one guy
Yeah.
like coming up, and she's like, okay,
Yeah.
who is this guy? Why is he walking
Yeah.
towards me? Like,
So it's almost more startling.
yeah.
Sure.
So would your recommendation be, like, I guess, for instance, we're at a coffee shop, like put Miranda down, set the precedence at 100, and it's okay if she barks if she's down?
Yeah.
Okay.
Would you say, like, if as long as she's down, like, don't correct the barking, or if she's barking and reacting, are you still correcting that?
There's bigger issues aside from the actual reactivity. The reactivity you're seeing is more of a byproduct of, I mean, even since I've been here the couple minutes, she's broke that down like 3 or 4 times. She's very antsy, you could tell, right? So getting on all of those things, like I talked about, you know, you're proactively getting her into the right state of mind where all the stuff happening around her isn't going to be as stimulating because she has to stay more focused on the things she's being asked to do. And would you say you guys consistently in the past, if you went to a coffee shop or you came to a park, would you say you've consistently always kept her under direct control? So meaning like she's always in a down or in some sort of position, or were you a little looser about as long as she wasn't like pulling you and stuff, kind of letting her do her?
It's more for you, because I feel like I always go in and he
Yeah.
just stays with her.
Yeah.
It's not
Yeah. I feel like normally I'll either put her in like a sit or a down.
Yeah.
And then I feel like the problem I always run into is like she's cute, so people are always like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
oh hey puppy, blah blah.
Yeah.
And then if she does break it, it's because she'll back up and
Yeah.
bark.
Okay.
It's
Yeah,
not like a
She's
lunge.
fearful.
Like, it's like,
Sure.
like you're getting too close to me, so she barks and
Yeah,
then
yeah.
backs up, and then I'll correct her, and then usually it's
Got it.
okay.
Yeah, and honestly, like, I think sometimes, you know, we usually say, you know, advocate for your dog, try to not let people approach her, things like that. But, like, people doing that, like, that's a normal thing you're going to run into,
Yeah.
obviously. So sometimes I also don't shy away from those things. Like, we know she's having an issue with that. Yeah, like, have your friends or whoever, like, you know, set up that exact picture, come up, hi, puppy, hi, oh, you're so cute. You know, and like really make sure she's practicing that impulse control.
Okay.
And then I think the missing link really is if you're at like the difference between 40 and 100 is a massive difference, you know? And sometimes, like we were saying, if we start at that 40 and we're trying to correct at that 40, it's like, you know, it's okay, you know, sometimes, but then when she really starts misbehaving, we start to try to crank it up, but we've already lost our chance. We let her get like too escalated where that level isn't going to be as effective. Where when she's in the calmer state of mind and we can correct her at a more meaningful level, she's not going to get herself so ramped up where that level's going to just go out the window, you know?
Yeah, because we don't let like when people like come up, we're always like you can say hi, but she's a little hesitant.
Yeah.
She doesn't really like to be pet.
Sure.
And so like
Yeah.
people will come up and like say hi to her, like we just
Yeah.
want to get her to a point where she's like not reacting to like
Sure.
someone giving her direct like attention.
So aside from the like barking and lunging, like you mentioned that squirrels and cats were a little bit of an issue. When she did go after that cat earlier, was that on 100 or did you stay a little bit lower than that?
No, I think I had her at like 80, and then she didn't care.
Sure.
And then so I turned it up to 100.
Okay.
Shocked her, she kind of felt it.
Yeah.
And then I held it for like 2 or 3
Okay.
seconds, and then she was like, all right, I'm done.
Okay. Yeah, I'd say like all in all, the theme is when she gets to a state of being like really aroused, whether that's by squirrels or like that fearfulness of the strangers, she's not going to perceive the same levels that she would in the home. So it almost always, like when you set out for your walks the next couple of days, have that level at 100 and pull over, go somewhere, do a down like this. And same thing, like you're going to get really firm on her right off the bat so she can immediately take you seriously. So I want to walk over by the playground a little bit, see if we can't see some squirrels and see if what she does currently. So anywhere you'd like.
No, let down.
Good job. Can you try to approach her again? Good. Excellent.
That's pretty standard?
Yeah. Honestly, it's normally like, does she even bark? I would say it's usually like a big
bark and then back up.
And then the back.
Yeah. Well, the positive is she's going away.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
No interest.
Yeah.
Hi. That was better. She thought about it.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
Good job. So now I know what to do. Good girl.
I feel like that's normally how it is at our house too. It's like
Yeah.
if she gets spooked by one of like my buddies, as soon as she gets to the point where she'll let them like pet her,
Yeah.
she's like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
You're good.
I'm really testing this right now. Like,
Mhm.
obviously, in this situation, generally wouldn't be having people come up and totally pet her, you know? Or just kind of push it in a little bit just to make sure she understands the impulse control.
Get used to the picture of like naturally people are going to come up and like look at her, and that even if it takes a couple of corrections, we're getting her back down.
Yeah, and I feel like more so we just knew that you guys would have the exact
Yes,
answer
yeah.
instead of us like trying to figure it out ourselves.
Of course.
And make some probably super inconsistent
Yeah.
routine. We just were like, let's just text Brittany.
Yeah.
That's like the wisest thing you could have done.
Yeah.
Most people try to figure it out on their own, and then
I feel like we let her bark a couple of times when people were coming over, and then I could feel myself like,
Yeah.
I want them to come to our house.
Sure.
And then I was like, well, that's why we
Yeah.
took her to training
Yeah,
to
yeah, of
avoid
course.
all that.
Yes, exactly.
So we should use it.
And then moments like you said that you have a couple friends that she kind of goes crazy over that she really likes. Do you find it hard to control her energy level in that kind of scenario when she's really amped up and likes somebody?
I really just have one friend that she's like obsessed with.
Yeah.
And she really eggs it on, like, 'cause she loves Nala too.
Sure.
The last time she came over though, I did have her on her bed, and I did tell her to ignore her, and
Perfect.
I feel like that gave her the time to.
Yeah.
Like, okay, she's here, but as soon as I said okay, she like jumped up, ran
Okay.
up to her, but.
Even moments like that, I would take, like, next time you do a session like this, maybe have that friend to come over and talk to her just like I was doing in the beginning, and see if, even if the pendulum swings in the direction of her being super happy to see somebody, we still want to have that same level of control versus if she's fearful or scared.
Yeah, I think we really just wanted to know, like, what to work on, and this is like a perfect example. Like, she was saying, even if we had Grace do like what he's doing, just, when she's excited to.
The more you can role play like the exact picture that she struggles with in like a controlled way like this, where you get a lot of successful reps in, the better it's going to go. Sometimes it's like when we're waiting for it to happen organically, it's like we get one shot, and it's like we either screw it up or we get it right, you know? So now we're building on a ton of good reps after she struggled with it for a little bit over there, you know?
And I think, like, we just need to get her out more. Like, because like she did really good when she has her bed. When she has her bed and she knows, like, I can't go anywhere. I have a choice. Like,
the down is the same thing. Right? Sorry, I talked about earlier, like having a consistent routine. Like if I'm out and about somewhere with my dogs, if I am not moving, they're in a down state. That's just what I do.
And I would say even like another opportunity for us to do this is when we drop her off or pick her up from daycare.
That's a perfect,
When I dropped her off the other day, I was telling Bridget, I was so embarrassed. She was so excited. And I'm glad she's excited,
But the impulse of being really excited is really similar to the one of being really fearful, you know? So take the extra minute, work on it, get it under control. Yeah, daycare, we see that commonly with dogs, is like, it's one of the highest distractions you encounter, you know? And like you said, it's like, they're excited to be there, so it's no big deal. But it's a great opportunity to practice in that really aroused state of mind, making sure she keeps herself together.
And I know, speaking for myself, I have not had it at 100 when I drop her off, so I'll do that next time.
I think naturally as humans, like, we're scared to go up that high because we think we have to save that or reserve that only when she's done something egregious or bad. But again, like David said, we want to prevent her from getting to that headspace. So getting on her for those little details at 100, just like this, I think is going to end up being more productive, and she's going to stop rehearsing that behavior.
Hi, buddy. Look at him. He's on his, but we were just complimenting on his, him being on his P's and Q's.
Oh, yeah.
What's up, dude? What's going on?
Nothing much.
Hi, buddy. Hi. So what's he up to?
We're still working on obedience. Like, it's a hit or miss. So.
Where are you finding that he's doing poorly with it?
It's just people in general. It's like sometimes, like, it just depends on the person.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
And what, like, if he doesn't do well with it, like, what's he doing?
Same thing. Like, he's just after them.
Yeah. All right. And are you working him higher on the e-collar in those situations?
I try to, but it's hard to, like, dash come and then, like, press the button.
Yeah.
Just like, dude, just come on, hurry up, let's go.
Yeah, sure. Okay. All right. Well, we'll keep kind of drilling with the off-leash stuff a little bit today. Okay. What level are you at right now?
30.
30. Come here, buddy. So let's go ahead and pop this leash off of him, and then why don't you turn your level up a little bit, go to maybe like a 50, and then if we need to increase it a little more, we can. Okay. And I want to see you start with just some walking. So you kind of walk straight into the grass, and we'll start by like walking around that way. I think probably if you're finding you're still having some impulse control issues, you're probably still starting way too low. So I would really recommend keeping it up just a little bit higher, just for the most part. And you'll probably avoid a lot of the testing of the boundaries. I'm assuming this is a situation like you're talking about, where he gets distracted by it. Yeah. Okay. So go ahead and pull off to the side and do your sit. So another thing that I'm seeing you do that I think is gonna be a good tweak to help you out a little bit is when he starts getting a little distracted, you start slowing down, almost waiting for him.
Okay.
And I think it confuses him. And because every time I've seen it so far today, he starts slowing down, you slow down, and because you slow down, he thinks he should sit, and then you have to correct him for it because he stops following you. So try to make sure when you're working with him, if you notice he's getting a little distracted, just keep moving.
Okay.
Don't change your pace or anything like that, and wait for him to make the decision of either catching up to you or stopping. And if he stops at that point, then we would correct for it.
That's it. Like when we're like, that, honestly, I probably would have walked past them.
You would have, you said?
I would have.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, it's not wrong to walk past them, right? The reason why I like the sit is two reasons, right? One is it's a little bit more black and white of a criteria. So he's either like in the sit or not in the sit. So you have something really easy to correct for. Where when you're walking, sometimes, especially with a high distraction like a dog, it's like, where exactly is the line where he's gotten too far that we need to correct? You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's a little bit more black and white of an expectation. Two, what it does is it gives us kind of like a non-verbal cue to give the other people that we're not interacting right now. So pulling off to the side and doing a sit pretty much all the time prevents people from being like, oh, can they say hi? And having them drag up to him, right? And then three, I like to have just a predictable routine that every time we see this distraction, this is what we do for him. Doing pretty good. What do you, if you really had to kind of pinpoint the situations that he hasn't done well in over the last week, like what do you think, is there any sort of like similarities you could find in them or anything?
It's probably not like this.
Do you feel like you're still kind of letting too much slide maybe?
I do, because I feel like, I feel bad.
Sure, I understand. Do you feel that you're like being more consistent right now than you would even like at home?
No, not really. I feel like it's almost the same.
Sure. What? So then, at home, what is it? Is it the correcting him that you feel bad about? Is it when he gets confused? Like, what is it? What is it that you find yourself like really feeling bad about?
I corrected it. I just put it at like 15, 20.
Sure. Yeah. Okay.
Probably 40 is probably the highest.
Yeah. I got you. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, and there have definitely been a couple situations over the last couple of sessions we've done where we wound up, 50, 60. I think even the first session we did, we were in like the 70s, I think, if I'm not mistaken. So I understand. I always tell everybody, like, I'm very empathetic. So, like, we don't want to have to correct our dog, right? Like, I don't like when, you have to hit it and he, like, jumps because he's, like, getting corrected and all that kind of stuff, obviously. But if you really stay focused on the end goal, which is if you stay firm on him over it and you use those higher levels and you're consistent about it, you won't have to correct him very much, That is kind of the end goal you want to hit, right?
And I'm also teaching because, like, he'll, like make noises.
Sure.
And it's like, we got to put it down. Like, like what we did last time.
Yes.
So, like, what exactly is it?
Yeah. When you get into vocalization can be a couple of things, right? One, it could be just that it was kind of high in the moment. Two, it could be that it really startled him in the moment, right? Three is if he's really aroused in the first place. It's like when you're really aroused and you're distracted and then you get like poked, it's like that arousal just has to come out somewhere.
Okay.
You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's kind of a mix of a lot of those things. That was our last client we were just working with. It's a mix of a lot of those things. So you got to do your best to ask yourself, like, was he just really distracted and that high level was needed in that moment? Or was it like, you're walking with him, there's not a lot of stuff going on, he just makes a little mistake, you give him a correction and he yips from it. At that point, maybe I would back it off a little bit, So use your best judgment with it. There are definitely going to be situations where you don't need to be quite as high, but if you're finding yourself still needing to correct for the same thing over and over, particularly around people and stuff, you're probably still underwhelming him at that level a little too much.
Okay.
You know? So I always try to ask myself the question of like, is he being confused or is he disobedient? And that's kind of how I dictate my level range. Like if you remember last time at the end of our session when we were working the sit stays and the recalls and all of that, I told you we could back off the level quite a bit on those because his mistakes he were making were not like, oh my God, I'm blowing you off because I want to go say hi to that person or things like that. It was just, wait a minute, am I doing sit or am I doing come right now? Right? It was like an honest mistake. So he just kind of needed a reminder more than like a big aversive correction for that, right? But in your case, again, working, you know, around the apartment, working around people around the apartment, I probably would keep it pretty high for most of that.
Okay.
So you said some of the situations where you kind of lost control over him were with dogs?
Or just like walking past, like when we're in the elevator, he's really good. And
Okay.
we walk out and then go like,
The other thing too I find is like when you get yourself in a position where you're hurrying, you're trying to rush to get past a distraction, generally all your good timing and stuff goes out the window. So I actually prefer to slow everything down in that moment. And let's say you're in the elevator with 3 other people, I'll actually sit there and I'll let them all go out and take my time enforcing my sit before I ever have him get up and start moving. Beautiful. Yeah, just kind of slow everything down, you know, take your time with stuff, really make sure that, you know, you're getting quality of repetitions versus quantity of repetitions. It's a mini-me. Yeah. Yeah. Beautiful. Cool, let's keep cruising. Yeah, because everything I'm seeing you do right now looks good, you know? So if you're enforcing everything the same at home, there really shouldn't be a reason why you get past the rest of this stuff. I think it's probably just slowing yourself down a little bit if you're rushing around the distractions, continuing to have a little higher of a level around the distractions, you know? And if you are letting certain things slide sometimes, just making sure you're not letting anything slide at this point, because he looks great. I mean, he's doing really awesome right now. Even this from last week, I think, is like a 10x improvement. Because we were really staying away from the people last time, if you remember. Or he was on leash.
Oh, good little puppy.
He's trying.
Woof woof. You feel me this?
What's that? Oh, you're fine. Yeah.
I saw the little dog. He almost shivered like it's cold. You got fur?
He's just blowing in the wind, you know?
I saw like people, you're watching kids, the guys playing soccer.
Yeah.
And the dog just, it's so small, it should be running around like a puppy.
Yeah, right?
You know, like, what?
Yeah. Going crazy.
Well trained.
He's trying.
A lot older than I realized.
Yeah. Look at that, another compliment, bud. Timing looked good with everything. So if your timing has been good at home, like consistent to what we saw today, then the only difference was that the level was higher. And because the level was higher, he was more motivated to try to avoid it the next time, which is why he stopped making the mistakes, as opposed to continuously made them and needed the reminders. Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah.
So that really is the variable. Is first and foremost, we look at the consistency, the timing, making sure that you're communicating effectively with him. Once that box is checked, it's either he cares about the consequence or he doesn't care about the consequence, right? So I think that is really your missing variable at this point, because he kind of aced it today. I mean, he really did about as good as we could ask him to do.